The massive underground chamber stretched nearly half a kilometer across, carved from solid bedrock beneath the mountains of what was once called North America. 5,000 humans sat in perfect stillness, their breathing synchronized, their minds quiet. This was the silent worship, a tradition maintained for 3 centuries since the Great Conflict. Tom shifted slightly on his stone seat, careful not to make a sound. At 22, this was his 100th time participating in the ceremony. His mentor, Jack, sat beside him, eyes closed, back straight despite his 70 years. The old man had never explained why they continued this practice, only that it was the most important duty humans could perform. The silence keeps us safe, Jack always said. Remember that. The chamber was lit only by soft blue lights embedded in the walls, casting long shadows across the gathered people. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound was the gentle hum of the air circulation system keeping the vast space breathable. 2 kilometers above them, the surface of Earth appeared, mostly abandoned. Small settlements dotted the landscape, humans living simple lives, farming, building, and maintaining the old technologies without developing new ones. To any observer, humanity seemed to have abandoned its earlier dreams of expansion and progress. This was exactly what they wanted the universe to believe. Commander Rax stood on the bridge of the scout vessel Distant Reach, studying the blue-green planet below. His gray skin reflected the glow of the ship's instruments as his 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his species. Another primitive world, said his second-in-command, Dren. Barely worth conquering. Rax turned his elongated head. The records show they once had promising technology, then they simply stopped advancing. The visitors, as they called themselves, had conquered 17 systems over the past century. Their strategy was efficient. Identify developing civilizations, assess their technology and resources, then quickly overwhelm them before they could pose any threat. They had never encountered serious resistance. Our scans detect unusual energy patterns underground, said the science officer Lin. Regular gatherings of humans in massive chambers. No machinery, just bodies. Religious rituals. Dren dismissed with a wave of his 3-fingered hand. Many species cling to such practices before accepting our rule. Rax wasn't convinced. 3 centuries ago, these humans were developing faster than any species we've encountered. Then suddenly, they retreated from space, dismantled most of their cities, and adopted this simple existence. He gestured toward the view screen. I want to know why. The High Command expects our report in 7 rotations, Dren reminded him. We should focus on cataloging resources, not studying primitive customs. We will do both, Rax decided. Prepare a surface team. We'll observe one of these gatherings. The silent worship continued as it always did. Hour 3 passed into hour 4. Some of the younger participants struggled to maintain their discipline, but the weight of tradition kept them still. In the center of the chamber, a simple stone pedestal stood empty, the focal point toward which everyone faced. Jack had once told Tom that the earliest ceremonies had included a physical object on that pedestal, but no one alive knew what it had been. The purpose of silent worship was remembrance of something that must never be forgotten, yet the specific memory had been intentionally lost to time. This paradox had always fascinated Tom. A slight vibration passed through the stone floor. Tom's eyes flickered open momentarily. Such disturbances were rare but not unheard of, usually minor seismic activity in the mountain range above. He closed his eyes again and resumed his controlled breathing. What Tom couldn't see was the small probe that had penetrated the chamber's ceiling, hovering silently near the high rock dome. Inside the probe, cameras and sensors recorded everything: body, temperatures, heart rates, brain activity of the participants, and the strange energy readings that had drawn the aliens' attention. Fascinating, Lynn whispered as she studied the data streaming back to their hidden ship. 5,000 humans. Perfectly synchronized biometric readings. This is not random, this is training. Rax leaned forward. Training for what? Unknown. But look at these energy patterns. She pointed to a pulsing display. "They're generating a field that extends well beyond the chamber. It's subtle, but it's there." Dren snorted. "You're seeing meaning in meaningless ritual. These humans are no threat. Our invasion will be as simple as the others." "No." Rax's voice was firm. "Something's not right. I want a closer look." He stood from his command. "Sure, I'll lead the infiltration team myself." 6 hours later, as darkness fell across the mountains, 3 visitors in environment suits made their way through a secondary entrance to the underground complex. Their adaptive camouflage rendered them nearly invisible against the rough stone walls. "Remember," Rax subvocalized through their secure communication system. "Observation only. We don't engage." They moved silently through the tunnels, following the map their probes had constructed. The alien technology allowed them to bypass the simple security systems the humans had installed. Eventually, they reached a narrow observation balcony overlooking the main chamber. From this vantage point, the sight was even more impressive. Row upon row of motionless humans, creating perfect concentric circles around the empty pedestal. The silence was absolute. "This has been continuing for nearly 9 hours now," Lynn noted, checking her instruments. "No breaks, no movement." "Their discipline is remarkable," Rax admitted. "Perhaps there's more to these humans than—" His words cut off as Dren stumbled, sending a small shower of loose stones clattering down into the chamber below. The sound, though minor, echoed dramatically in the perfect silence. 5,000 heads remained still, but something changed. Rax felt it before his instruments detected it, a shift in the atmosphere, a tightening of attention. The humans didn't look up, didn't speak, but somehow they all knew they were being watched. "We should leave," Lynn whispered, her voice betraying rare anxiety. Something's happening to the energy field. On her scanner, the gentle pulse they had been monitoring was changing, becoming erratic. Below, an elderly human, Jack, opened his eyes slowly, looking directly toward their hiding spot despite the camouflage technology. "We've been compromised," Rax decided. "Retreat to the surface." As the aliens withdrew, Tom also opened his eyes, feeling a strange sensation he'd never experienced before. Around the chamber, dozens of others were doing the same, their perfect synchronization broken for the first time in memory. Jack's weathered hand found Tom's arm, gripping it with surprising strength. "It has begun," the old man whispered, breaking the silence of the ceremony. "They have come just as the ancients predicted." "Who's come?" Tom asked, his voice sounding strange after hours of silence. "The catalyst." Jack's eyes shone with an emotion Tom couldn't identify. Fear. Excitement. "For 300 years we've maintained the lock. Now they've turned the key." Across the chamber, a young woman named Kate, wearing the insignia of the Earth Defense Corps, was already on her feet, speaking urgently into a communication device. Others were standing too, some looking confused, others with expressions of grim determination. On the empty pedestal at the center, a faint blue glow had appeared, growing stronger by the second. "What's happening?" Tom asked, feeling an odd pressure building behind his eyes. Jack stood, pulling Tom up with him. "The silent worship was never just a ceremony, boy. It was a containment protocol." He looked around at the growing chaos as more people broke formation. "And now it's failing." Above them, racing back to their ship, the 3 aliens didn't yet realize what they had done. They had not merely observed a human ritual, they had disrupted the careful balance that had kept humanity's greatest power dormant for centuries. The final weapon was beginning to wake. The morning after the disruption, chaos reigned in the underground complex. People who had maintained perfect discipline for generations now moved frantically through the corridors, their voices creating a constant buzz that had not been heard in these halls for centuries. Tom followed Jack through the crowd, struggling to keep up with the old man's surprisingly quick pace. His head throbbed with a strange pressure that had started during the ceremony and hadn't stopped since. "Jack, please. You need to explain what's happening," Tom called out. The old keeper finally stopped at a massive stone door marked with ancient symbols. He pressed his palm against it and the door slid open with a low rumble. "In here," Jack said, before the others come looking. The room beyond was small, but filled with technology that looked far more advanced than anything Tom had seen in the settlements. Screens flickered to life as they entered, displaying data streams and what appeared to be brain scans. "Sit," Jack ordered, pointing to a chair in the center of the room. "I need to check your levels." "My levels of what?" Tom asked, but he sat anyway. The chair immediately molded to his form, and sensors emerged from the armrests, attaching themselves to his skin. Jack studied the readings with growing concern. "Just as I feared. Your dormant abilities are awakening faster than most, probably because you were sitting so close to me when the disruption occurred." "What abilities?" "Jack, you've never explained any of this." The old man sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping. "It was never supposed to be necessary. The silent worship was meant to continue forever, keeping the lock in place." He gestured at the screens. "Or at least until we were ready to use what we had contained." Jack tapped several controls, and a holographic display appeared between them. It showed Earth as it had been before the Great Conflict: sprawling cities, massive space stations, vessels traveling between planets. 300 years ago, humanity was expanding throughout the solar system. We were developing technologies that would soon allow us to reach nearby stars, Jack explained. During that research, scientists discovered something unexpected about human consciousness. The display changed, showing brain scans with unusual energy patterns, similar to what Tom had seen on the screens monitoring his own brain. Under certain conditions, the human mind can directly affect physical reality. Telekinesis, telepathy, energy manipulation, abilities that had been dismissed as myths suddenly had scientific basis, Jack continued. The discovery sparked a global race to develop these abilities as weapons. Tom stared at the images, struggling to process what he was hearing. "Are you saying humans are psychic?" "Potentially, yes. All humans carry the genetic capacity for these abilities, but they prove too dangerous, too unpredictable. When the first generation of enhanced humans lost control of their powers, the devastation was catastrophic." The hologram displayed scenes of destruction, cities crumbling, landscapes warped in impossible ways, and strange energy storms tearing across continents. "The survivors made a choice," Jack said solemnly. "Rather than let humanity destroy itself completely, they developed a genetic lock, a modification that suppressed these abilities in future generations. The silent worship was designed as a reinforcement of that lock, creating a psychic field that kept everyone's abilities dormant." Tom touched his temple where the pressure continued to build. "And now that lock is breaking." "Yes. The aliens who observed us, they call themselves the visitors, their presence disrupted the field just enough. And now," Jack gestured at the readings, "it's spreading." Across the complex, Kate Phillips strode purposefully toward the command center. As a captain in Earth's Defense Corps, she had been briefed on the true purpose of the silent worship, though even most military personnel believed it was merely tradition. The center was abuzz with activity when she arrived. Monitors showed disturbances at worship sites across the globe, all experiencing the same phenomenon that had begun in the main chamber. "Report," she demanded. Commander Harris, a stern woman with gray-streaked hair, turned from the main display. "It's happening everywhere. The suppression field is collapsing faster than our models predicted." "Casualties?" 12 so far, mostly older participants whose minds couldn't handle the sudden change. Hundreds more reporting headaches, nosebleeds, and disorientation. Kate nodded grimly. "And the visitors?" "Their ship remains in orbit. We've detected smaller craft entering the atmosphere. They're expanding their surveillance." "They don't know what they've done," Kate said, more to herself than to Harris. "No," the commander agreed, "but they'll find out soon enough." In a small farm 10 miles from the main complex, a young man named Marcus clutched his head in agony as plates and cups began to float around his kitchen. He had never attended the silent worship, claiming it was outdated superstition. Now he screamed as the pressure in his skull built beyond bearing. "Make it stop," he cried to no one in particular. The windows of his home shattered outward. A nearby tree uprooted itself and hovered 6 feet above the ground. Similar scenes were playing out across the settlement. People who had never shown any unusual abilities suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by powers they couldn't control. On the observation deck of the distant Reach, Commander Rax watched the surveillance feeds with growing concern. "Something is happening to them," Lynn said, her voice tight with scientific curiosity. "The energy readings we detected are changing, intensifying." "Explain," Rax demanded. Lynn adjusted the displays. "The field that covered their gathering places is dissipating, but the energy isn't disappearing. It's transferring to individual humans. Each of them is becoming a localized energy source." Dren, who had remained skeptical, now leaned forward with interest. "Weapon potential?" "Unknown but significant," Lynn replied. "If these readings are accurate, some of these humans could potentially generate enough energy to—" An alarm cut her off. One of their surveillance drones had gone dark. "Show me the last transmission," Rax ordered. The screen displayed a human, Marcus, staring directly at the drone despite its stealth technology. His eyes glowed with an unnatural blue light. Then the feed cut to static. "Prepare a capture team," Rax decided. "I want specimens for study." Back in the monitoring room, Jack disconnected Tom from the sensors. "Your abilities are awakening faster than most, but you still have time to learn control," the old keeper said. "Others won't be so fortunate." "What happens to them?" Tom asked. "If they can't stabilize the energy flow, their minds burn out," Jack answered bluntly. "In the early days before the lock was created, thousands died this way." A soft chime sounded, and one of the screens changed to show Kate's face. "Jack, we have a situation," she said. "The aliens have landed capture teams. They're taking people, showing signs of awakening." Jack's face hardened. "They think they've discovered a new phenomenon to study. They don't realize they're dealing with something we've spent centuries containing. We need to move up the timetable," Kate insisted. "Start training the stable ones immediately." "It's too soon," Jack protested. "Most won't survive accelerated awakening." "We don't have a choice. The visitors are already adapting their tactics. They're using some kind of suppression technology on the captives." Tom stepped forward. "I want to help. Tell me what to do." Jack and Kate exchanged a look through the screen. "Bring him to the inner chamber," Kate finally said, "along with anyone else showing Class 3 stability or higher. We start now." As Jack led Tom through deepening levels of the complex, the young man noticed others joining them, people from the ceremony, all looking equally confused and frightened. "Where are we going?" Tom asked. "To the true heart of the silent worship," Jack replied. "The place where it all began, and where humanity's final weapon was forged." They descended a spiral staircase that seemed to go on forever, the air growing cooler with each step. Finally, they entered a perfectly circular chamber. At its center stood the object that should have been on the pedestal above, a crystalline sphere about the size of a human head, pulsing with blue-white energy. "What is it?" Tom whispered, feeling the pressure in his head intensify as he neared. "The sphere. We call it the Echo," Jack said. "It contains the psychic imprint of the first generation of enhanced humans, including their knowledge of how to control the abilities you're now developing." Kate stepped forward from the shadows, at the far side of the room. "And today," she said, "you're going to connect with it." Tom stared at the glowing sphere, both terrified and strangely drawn to it. "Will it hurt?" Jack placed a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, but the alternative is worse. The aliens who woke you won't stop with observation. They never do." "How do you know?" Kate's expression darkened. "Because they're not the first to find us, just the first to get this far." Around them, other confused, awakened humans were being led into the chamber by older keepers. The blue light from the Echo reflected in their eyes as the next phase of humanity's long-dormant plan began to unfold. Dawn broke over the settlement as 3 alien ships descended silently from the clouds. Their sleek, dark hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it, making them appear as moving shadows against the early morning sky. Inside the lead vessel, Commander Rax reviewed the capture priorities one final time. "Target individuals showing the strongest energy signatures," he instructed the strike teams. "Use the suppression nets, They disrupt the strange field these humans are generating. And remember, we need them alive. 20 visitor soldiers checked their equipment. Unlike the observation team, these warriors wore full combat armor. Their normally gray skin completely covered by suits that could withstand extreme conditions. Each carried a specialized weapon designed to incapacitate rather than kill. The High Command is particularly interested in this development, Rax continued. These humans may possess an ability we've never encountered before. Understanding it could be critical to our expansion. Lynn, who had joined the capture team as scientific advisor, studied her scanner. The energy signatures are constantly shifting. Some are growing stronger by the hour. Then we move immediately, Rax decided, before they learn to use whatever power they're developing. The ship split up, each heading toward a different cluster of energy signatures. In the underground inner chamber, Tom's hands shook as he faced the glowing echo. 20 other awakened humans formed a circle around the crystalline sphere, all looking equally terrified and confused. Kate stood at a control panel making final adjustments. The process is simple in theory, she explained. The echo contains the combined knowledge of the first awakened. When you connect with it, you'll receive guidance on how to control your abilities. In theory? Someone asked nervously. Jack stepped forward. There are risks. The echo contains raw experiences, memories of both the wonders and horrors of the Great Conflict. Some minds reject the connection. And what happens then? Tom asked. The old keeper's face grew solemn. Psychic burnout, brain death in severe cases. A murmur of fear passed through the group. We wouldn't ask this of you if there were any alternative, Kate said firmly. But the aliens have already captured 7 awakened humans. We've tracked their ships taking people from the smaller settlements. They're hunting us. Jack nodded. And anyone they take will be studied, dissected, their abilities weaponized against the rest of humanity. Tom swallowed hard, but stepped closer, to the echo. I'll go first. Kate gave him a measuring look, then nodded. Place your hands on the sphere. Try to clear your mind. Don't resist what comes. The moment Tom's fingers touched the crystalline surface, his world exploded into countless fragments of memory and sensation. He was no longer in the chamber. He was everywhere, experiencing everything at once. A woman lifting an entire building with her mind to save trapped children. A man connecting telepathically with thousands, creating a network of shared consciousness. The horror of the First Psychic War, as minds tore into each other across continents. The agony of overextension, blood vessels rupturing as abilities pushed beyond safe limits. The careful research into genetic locks. The desperate plan to save humanity from itself. Tom screamed, but no sound came out. His physical body stood frozen, hands locked to the echo's surface as knowledge 3 centuries old poured into his mind. After what seemed like eternity, but was actually less than a minute, he collapsed to the floor, blood trickling from his nose. Tom! Jack rushed to his side, checking his pulse. Tom's eyes fluttered open, the irises now flecked with the same blue light that emanated from the echo. I understand now, he whispered. Before he could explain further, an alarm blared. Throughout the complex, Kate pressed a hand to her communication device. Report, visitor ships, came the urgent reply. 3 of them approaching from different directions. They're targeting the outlying residences first. They're hunting for awakened humans, Kate realized. Security teams to defensive positions. Get the untrained awakened to the lower levels. Tom struggled to his feet. I can help, he said, his voice stronger than before. I know how now. Kate looked skeptical. You've barely begun to understand your abilities. I don't have them all yet, but I understand the fundamentals, Tom insisted. The echo showed me. We can't just hide. We need to actively defend our people. Jack studied, his former apprentice with pride and concern. What did you see, Tom? Everything. The history, the techniques, the warnings. Tom's eyes glowed brighter. And I saw what happens if the visitors get what they want. In the small farming community, on the outskirts of the main settlement, Marcus hid in his cellar as the alien ship hovered directly over his home. His headache had subsided, replaced by a strange clarity. Objects no longer floated randomly around him. Now they moved according to his will. When the cellar door burst open, he was ready. 2 visitor soldiers in full combat gear descended the stairs, scanning devices leading them directly to him. Human detected, one reported through its communication system. Strong energy signature. Marcus stepped out of the shadows. Looking for me? The soldiers raised their weapons, strange devices that looked like nets made of pulsing energy. Marcus raised his hand. The weapons flew upward, smashing into the ceiling. The soldiers charged, but Marcus felt the power surging through him. With a thought, he lifted both aliens off the ground. They struggled in midair, their armor suddenly seeming heavy and constricting. "You shouldn't have come here," Marcus said, surprised by the coldness in his own voice. He tightened his mental grip. The armor began to buckle inward. Before he could finish the deadly squeeze, a voice cut through his concentration. "Stop!" Tom stood at the top of the cellar stairs, Jack and 2 security officers behind him. "Don't kill them," Tom said, descending slowly. "We need information." Marcus hesitated, then lowered the aliens to the ground, still holding them immobile. "They were going to take me." "I know. They've taken others already." Tom approached one of the soldiers and placed his hand on its helmet. He closed his eyes, concentrating. Images flowed into his mind. The ship above. Other capture teams spread across the region, racks giving orders, the high command demanding specimens. And deeper, something more disturbing. Memories of other worlds, conquered, other species subjugated or eliminated. Tom pulled his hand away, gasping. They've done this 17 times before. Invaded developing worlds, taken what they wanted, eliminated any resistance. He looked at Jack. They were planning the same for Earth even before they discovered the awakenings. Jack nodded grimly. Then we've awakened just in time. A loud crash shook the farmhouse above them. Kate's voice came through their communication devices. "Visitor. Reinforcements incoming. Fall back to the complex." Marcus looked panicked. "There are more people in the surrounding farms. They'll be captured." "We need to coordinate," Tom said firmly. "I can help organize a defense, but not if we're scattered and picked off one by one." Jack put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Trust him. What he experienced with the Echo, it's given him insights the rest of us don't have yet." After a moment's hesitation, Marcus nodded. He released his mental hold on the 2 soldiers who collapsed unconscious to the floor. "What about them?" he asked. "Leave them," Tom replied. "They'll report what they saw. It might make the others hesitate before attacking again." As they rushed back toward the main complex, more ships appeared in the sky above. The hunt was intensifying. On the bridge of the distant reach, Commander Rax received the reports with growing concern. 4 capture teams lost contact, Lynn summarized. The last transmission showed a human demonstrating telekinetic abilities far beyond what we anticipated. "Impossible," Dren scoffed. "No species develop such abilities naturally." "This wasn't natural," Rax said quietly. "Remember the chambers, the ceremonies? They've been containing this power, controlling it." He turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare orbital strikes on the largest underground complexes. If we can't capture this power, we must eliminate it." Lynn looked alarmed. "The High Command ordered specimens, not elimination." "The situation has changed," Rax replied coldly. "These humans are not merely developing abilities. They already know how to use them. That suggests this is not a new discovery, but a deliberate defensive activation." "You mean they knew we were coming?" Dren asked incredulously. "Not us specifically, but they were prepared for something." Rax studied the planet below with new respect and caution. "Begin the bombardment in 1 hour. Target their largest underground structures first." As the visitors prepared their attack deep within the Earth complex, Tom stood once more before the Echo. This time, he wasn't alone. 20 more awakened humans had successfully connected with the ancient knowledge source, their eyes now bearing the same blue flecks as his. "They're planning an orbital strike," Tom announced. the information coming to him through a new awareness that extended beyond normal senses. "We don't have much time." Kate looked grim. "Our conventional defenses can't stop their ships." "No," Tom agreed. "But we can." He turned to the circle of newly awakened humans. "It's time to form the first link in 300 years. Jack's eyes widened. "The link? Are you certain? That's the most dangerous technique. It's what led to the catastrophes of the Great Conflict." "It's also our only hope," Tom replied. "Together, our minds united, we might generate enough power to create a shield." Around the chamber, the awakened looked at each other with mixture of fear and determination. None of them had sought this power, this responsibility. But now, as humanity's final weapon began to truly awaken, they had no choice but to master it, or perish in the attempt. The inner chamber hummed with energy as Tom arranged the awakened humans in a precise formation around the echo. 24 individuals stood in concentric circles, their faces tense with concentration. At the center, Tom placed his hands on the crystalline sphere, which now pulsed with light and rhythm with his heartbeat. "The link isn't just combining our abilities," he explained, his voice steady despite the pressure building inside his skull. "It's creating a unified consciousness, a collective mind greater than the sum of its parts." Kate watched from the edge of the room, arms crossed over her chest. As a military officer, she understood conventional warfare, but this was beyond her experience. "How dangerous is this really, Jack?" she whispered to the old keeper beside her. Jack's weathered face was grim. "The first awakened created the link to defend Earth during the Great Conflict. It worked, but the power it generated warped reality itself. Some of the participants were lost completely, their minds burned away by the energy they channeled." "And you're letting Tom attempt this?" she hissed. "Not letting, trusting," Jack corrected. "The knowledge he gained from the echo is more complete than anything I could teach him. He understands the risks better than I do now." In the center of the formation, Tom closed his eyes. "Everyone, clear your minds. Focus on my voice. The link begins with surrender. Let go of your individual concerns and connect to the person on your right and left." A visible wave of blue energy began to flow between the participants, connecting them like a web of light. "Now reach deeper," Tom continued. "Find the core of your awakened ability and open it to the others." The blue web brightened, pulsing with increased power. Several participants gasped as the mental barriers between them began to dissolve. Marcus, standing in the inner circle, suddenly stiffened. "I can feel everyone," he said in wonder. "Their thoughts, their emotions." "Stay focused," Tom warned. "Don't get lost in the connection. Remember your anchor." Before the ceremony, he had instructed each participant to hold firmly to a personal memory, something that defined their individual identity. This anchor would prevent them from being completely absorbed into the collective consciousness. As the link strengthened, Tom's awareness expanded exponentially. He could sense every person in the complex, then everyone in the settlement above. Further still, his mind stretched outward, touching the consciousness of awakened humans across the continent. Miles away, people who had never attended a silent worship suddenly felt a gentle presence in their minds, inviting connection. And above it all, he sensed the visitor ships, cold points of alien intelligence preparing to rain destruction from orbit. "They're targeting the main chamber," Tom announced, his voice now overlaid with multiple harmonic tones as the link spoke through him. "Weapons charging, impact in 7 minutes." Kate pressed her communication device. "All personnel, emergency, evacuation protocol. Move to secure levels 5 through 8 immediately." But Jack remained still, watching Tom with growing amazement. "That won't be necessary," he said softly. "What are you talking about? Their weapons will punch right through." "Watch," Jack interrupted, pointing to the ceiling. Above them, visible, through the link's shared perception, a dome of blue energy was forming over the entire complex, extending several miles in each direction. It shimmered like heat waves over desert sand, nearly transparent but undeniably present. "A shield," Kate whispered. Jack nodded. "The first defense of the awakened. On the bridge of the distant reach, alarms blared as sensors detected the sudden energy surge. "What is that?" Rax demanded, staring at the view screen where a faint blue dome had appeared over their primary target. Lynn worked frantically at her console. "Energy shield of unknown composition. It's like nothing in our database. The power readings are..." She hesitated, rechecking her instruments. "Off the scale. Can our weapons penetrate it?" "Unknown, Commander, but the shield is expanding rapidly." Dren watched with growing unease as the blue dome spread outward, covering more territory with each passing second. "Launch the strike now, before it grows stronger." Rax hesitated only briefly before giving the order. "Fire." Brilliant beams of concentrated energy lanced down from the visitor ships, striking the blue shield with tremendous force. The impact created spectacular corona effects, ripples of power cascading across the dome's surface, but the shield held. "Impossible," Dren whispered. "No planetary defense should withstand a full orbital barrage." Lynn's voice was tight with scientific excitement despite the situation. "Commander, I'm detecting a new phenomenon. The shield isn't just blocking our attack, it's absorbing the energy and growing stronger." Rax's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "Cease fire immediately." But the order came too late. The blue shield pulsed once brightly, then sent a massive surge of energy back along the weapon's paths. The feedback overloaded the visitor's systems, causing explosions across the smaller ships and severe damage to the distant reach. "Emergency protocols," Rax ordered as his bridge filled with smoke and warning alerts. "Withdraw to safe orbit." As the damaged visitor fleet retreated, the blue shield continued to expand, now covering hundreds of square miles and growing. In the inner chamber, the link had reached its full potential. 24 minds functioned as one, with Tom serving as the focal point. Through their combined consciousness, they perceived far beyond normal human limits, and what they saw astonished them. "The markers," Tom said, his voice reverberating with the power of the collective. "They're everywhere." The link's awareness had expanded to cosmic scale, allowing them to perceive something hidden in plain sight. Ancient warning beacons placed around Earth's solar system and dozens of nearby stars. "Placed by who?" Kate asked, her voice seeming distant and small compared to the harmonics of the link. "By us," Jack answered, understanding dawning on his weathered face. "By humanity, before the lock." Through the link, Tom accessed deeper memories stored within the echo, knowledge that had been hidden from even the keepers for centuries. "Earth wasn't always our only home," the link spoke through him. "Before the Great Conflict, humanity had spread to nearby star systems. When the psychic abilities first manifested, when the destruction began, outposts were established throughout local space. Images flowed through the collective consciousness, massive generation ships leaving Earth, colonies established on distant worlds, networks of psychic communication spanning light years. The silent worship wasn't just containing our abilities," Tom continued. "It was preserving them, keeping the connection alive but dormant until needed. The genetic lock wasn't meant to be permanent. It was a safety measure, designed to be released when humanity faced an existential threat." Kate struggled to comprehend the scale of what she was hearing. "You're saying we were once an interstellar civilization with psychic powers?" "More than that," Jack said, old pieces finally fitting together in his mind. "We were the protectors of this region of space." The link showed them more. Other species, peaceful exchanges, cooperative ventures across dozens of worlds. And then the arrival of the first aggressive species, similar to the visitors, but more primitive in their technology. "The Awakened defended not just Earth but all allied worlds," Tom explained, the link's voice growing stronger. "But the power was too great, too tempting. Some began to see themselves as gods rather than guardians." The images darkened. Worlds, torn apart by psychic warfare, reality itself warped by unchecked power. Earth, the origin point of the ability, suffered the worst as factions fought for control. "The survivors made a choice," Tom said. "To save what remained, they created the genetic lock and the silent worship. They established the keepers to maintain the tradition until the day the ability would be needed again. And they placed warning markers, Jack added, telling any who could read them that this region of space was protected, that the sleeping giants should be left in peace. Marcus, still part of the link but able to speak individually, looked awed. The visitors ignored the warnings, or couldn't read them, Kate suggested. If the markers were designed for psychic perception, they were, Tom confirmed. The visitors lack even the most basic psychic sensitivity. They saw the markers but perceived them as natural phenomena, not messages. Jack turned to Kate, his expression grave. Do you understand what this means? The visitors' attack didn't just awaken our defense mechanism, it restored our connection to our true history, our true purpose. Before Kate could respond, Tom suddenly stiffened, the link's energy flaring around him. The visitors are contacting their high command, he announced. They're calling for reinforcements, a full invasion fleet. Alarm spread through the room, but Jack stepped forward, placing a weathered hand on Tom's shoulder. There's more in the echo, isn't there? He asked quietly. More knowledge, more power. Tom nodded slowly, the blue light in his eyes intensifying. The full awakening protocol, it would break the remaining genetic locks worldwide, triggering awakening in every human with the capacity. The casualties would be catastrophic, Kate protested. You said yourself many minds can't handle sudden awakening. True, Jack acknowledged. But what choice do we have? The visitors won't stop with one attempt if their entire fleet comes. Tom's expression became distant as the link processed possibilities, calculating outcomes with the combined intelligence of 24 enhanced minds. There is another way, he said finally. A controlled global awakening, guided by those of us already connected. Is that possible? Kate asked. Difficult, but yes, Tom replied. The First Awakened designed failsafes for exactly this scenario, but it will require sacrifice. He turned to Jack, his expression somber. Someone must serve as the conduit for the initial pulse, channeling enough energy to reach every human simultaneously. Understanding dawned on Jack's face. And no one could survive being that conduit. Tom nodded slowly. The echo contains the procedure. A single keeper must connect directly to its core, becoming a living amplifier for the awakening signal. I'll do it, Jack said without hesitation. It's what I've prepared for my entire life, though I never knew it until now. Kate started to protest, but Jack silenced her with a raised hand. My time is nearly done anyway, and this is the purpose of all our generations of keeping the silence. He smiled sadly. To speak again, when the time was right. As the link maintained the shield against potential further attacks, preparations began for humanity's full reawakening. The final weapon, not a device of destruction but the collective consciousness of an entire species, was about to be completely unleashed after 3 centuries of slumber. And high above Earth, the visitor fleet regrouped, still unaware that they had not merely disturbed a primitive religious ritual, but had triggered the return of the greatest power their kind had ever encountered. 3 days after the failed orbital strike, Earth appeared deceptively calm from space. The blue shield had contracted, now covering only the major underground complexes. To the approaching visitor reinforcements, it might have seemed that the initial threat was contained. They were gravely mistaken. In the deepest level of the main complex, preparations for the global awakening reached their final stage. The inner chamber had been transformed, with the echo now suspended above a circular platform where Jack stood alone. Concentric rings of awakened humans surrounded him, their minds linked in a vast supporting network. Tom stood at the innermost circle, the strain of maintaining the link evident on his face. 48 minds now connected through him, twice the original number as more humans successfully underwent the awakening process. The visitor fleet will reach Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours, he announced, the link's harmonic voice echoing through the chamber. 7 capital ships, 22 support vessels. Their weapons are significantly more powerful than the initial attack force. Kate studied the tactical display projected onto one wall of the chamber. Even with our conventional defenses and the shield, we can't stop a fleet that size. We don't need to stop them, Jack said calmly. We just need time for the protocol to complete. The old keeper looked different now, more vibrant despite his years, his eyes glowing with the same blue light that marked all the awakened. He had spent decades maintaining the silent worship, never fully understanding its purpose. Now, in his final hours, he had found perfect clarity. The echo is ready, he said. The amplification circuits are calibrated. Once activated, the pulse will reach every human on Earth simultaneously. Tom stepped forward, breaking formation briefly to stand before his mentor. Jack, there must be another way. The link is growing stronger. Maybe if we wait, gather more awakened. Jack shook his head. The calculations are clear. We need a global response to face this threat. He placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. This was always my destination, though I didn't know it. The keepers have prepared for generations, passing down the knowledge, maintaining the silent worship. Now we understand why. Tom embraced the old man, fighting back tears. I'll make sure it wasn't in vain. I know you will. Jack stepped away, moving to the center of the platform. Begin the sequence. Kate took her position at the control system. Despite not being awakened herself, her military training made her the ideal operator for the technical aspects of the protocol. Energy channeling systems online, bioconnectors active. The echo began to pulse more rapidly, its light synchronizing with Jack's heartbeat. Fine tendrils of blue energy extended from the sphere, connecting to specific points on Jack's body: forehead, throat, chest, palms. Neural interface established, Kate reported. Power levels rising. Jack closed his eyes, his face serene despite the enormous energies beginning to flow through him. I can feel them, he whispered. All of them. Every human mind on Earth. Final authorization required, Kate said, looking to Tom. There was a moment of hesitation, a final acknowledgement of what they were about to unleash. Then Tom nodded. Proceed. Kate pressed her palm against the activation plate. Global Awakening Protocol initiated. The echo flared with blinding light as Jack's body arched backward, becoming a living conduit for powers that had been dormant for centuries. Blue energy coursed through him, amplified 1,000-fold, then radiated outward in an expanding sphere that passed through walls, earth, and ocean, as if they were not there. Around the world, humans stopped in mid-motion as the wave touched them. In fields and factories, in homes and schools, 7 billion people simultaneously experienced the same momentary connection, a gentle but insistent awakening, calling forth abilities long suppressed by the genetic lock. Not all would develop full abilities. The Echo's designers had been wiser this time, creating safeguards that would limit awakening based on individual capacity. But everyone would feel the connection, the awareness that humanity was more than they had believed. In the chamber, Jack's physical form began to lose cohesion, turning translucent as the energies consumed him. Still he stood, channeling the power until the pulse had completed its global journey. It is done, he said, his voice no longer coming from his dissolving body, but resonating directly in the minds of everyone present. Then, with a final smile, Jack vanished entirely, his consciousness merging with the echo itself, becoming part of the collective knowledge that would guide the newly awakened. Tom felt the connection break, a sensation like a great weight lifted from his shoulders. The link remained, but Jack's presence within it was gone. Kate looked up from her console, tears streaking her face despite her military composure. Energy pulse complete, global distribution at 97% effectiveness. And Jack? Marcus asked softly. He's everywhere now. Tom answered, touching the echo gently. Part of all of us. There was no time for further mourning. The tactical display flashed with new warnings as the visitor fleet entered final approach. There, moving into attack formation, Kate reported. Weapons systems charging. They'll be in range in 19 minutes. Tom straightened, facing the gathered awakened. It's time to show them who we really are. Commander Rack stood on the bridge of the flagship Sovereign Will, a vessel 10 times the size of his damaged scout ship. Around him, the military might. of the visitor empire prepared to subjugate yet another world. Scans confirm the defensive shield is limited to these regions, reported the tactical officer, highlighting several areas on the global display. Our combined firepower should overwhelm them quickly. Admiral Vex, the fleet commander, nodded in satisfaction. Begin the attack sequence. Target their shield generators first, then their population centers. Standard conquest protocol. Rax hesitated. Admiral, I recommend caution. These humans have demonstrated abilities we don't fully understand. Your failure to capture specimens has been noted, Commander. Vex replied coldly. Stand aside and observe how a proper military operation is conducted. As the fleet moved into firing position, something unexpected appeared on their sensors. Thousands of small energy signatures rising from Earth's surface. What are those? Vex demanded. The sensor officer adjusted his instruments. Impossible. They appear to be humans, Admiral, flying without vehicles. Outside the viewports they could see them now, glowing figures ascending through the atmosphere, surrounded by blue auras that protected them from the vacuum of space. Thousands of awakened humans, their abilities now fully active, rising to meet the invasion fleet. Open fire, Vex ordered, panic edging into his voice. The massive weapons of the visitor fleet discharged, sending destructive energy toward the approaching humans. But the beams never reached their targets. Each blast was caught, contained, and redirected by telekinetic barriers generated by the awakened. Among the defenders, Tom floated at the center of a formation that mirrored the Yao link structure below. His consciousness extended through the network of minds, coordinating their response with precision that would have been impossible for individuals acting alone. They rely on technology. His thoughts flowed through the link. We are the technology. The awakened responded as one, extending their combined telekinetic grip to the nearest visitor ships. Metal groaned as invisible forces compressed hull plating. Engines sputtered and died as their internal components were gently but firmly disassembled. On the flagship's bridge, systems failed in cascading sequence. Even the artificial gravity fluctuated, leaving the visitors floating helplessly. What is happening? Vex demanded, clinging to his command chair. Rax watched through the viewport as the awakened humans approached, their expressions not angry or vengeful, but determined. They're showing us the difference between conquest and defense, he said softly. This is why the markers were placed. What markers? What are you talking about? Vex snapped. Before Rax could answer, the bridge view screen activated on its own. Tom's face appeared, his eyes glowing with blue light. This ends now, he said, his voice somehow transmitting despite the ship's communications being offline. Your invasion fleet is disabled. You will not be harmed, but you will leave this system immediately. Vex snarled in defiance. The visitor empire does not retreat. This planet will be... His voice cut off as Tom raised a hand, not choking or harming the Admiral, simply preventing sound from leaving his mouth. You misunderstand, Tom continued calmly. This is not a negotiation. Through the link, we have accessed your navigation systems. Your ships are already being redirected home. Indeed, across the fleet, engines were reactivating, turning the massive vessels away from Earth. No amount of manual override from the crews had any effect. When you return, Tom said, you will deliver a message to your high command. This region of space is protected. It always has been. The markers you ignored were warnings, placed by humanity centuries ago when we first ventured among the stars. Tom's image seemed to grow, filling the screen. We are not a primitive species you can conquer. We are the guardians of this sector, and we have awakened. The screen went dark as the flagship, along with the entire visitor fleet, accelerated away from Earth at speeds their engines shouldn't have been capable of generating. 1 month later, Tom stood on a hillside overlooking the main settlement. Below, the world was transforming. New structures rose without construction equipment as awakened humans used telekinesis to place materials. Others used their abilities to heal the land, accelerate crop growth, or generate clean energy. Kate joined him, wearing her military uniform but with a new insignia. the echo symbol, signifying her role as liaison between conventional forces and the awakened. "The satellite network is complete," she reported. "We can now monitor the warning markers across 50 light-years." Tom nodded. "And the old outposts?" "We've received signals from 3 so far. It seems there were survivors, human colonies that maintained their own version of the silent worship all this time." Jack would have been pleased to know he wasn't alone in his vigil, Tom said softly. Kate looked up at the night sky, where a faint blue shimmer, invisible to normal eyes but clear to the awakened, marked the extended protective field now surrounding Earth's solar system. "What happens now?" she asked. "The visitors won't be the last to come." "No," Tom agreed, "but we'll be ready. Not as conquerors. Jack was right about the dangers of that path, but as guardians, the role we were meant to fulfill before the great conflict." In the settlement below, the daily silent worship continued, but with a difference. Instead of maintaining silence to suppress their abilities, the participants now used the time to refine their control, to connect with the growing network of awakened minds across the planet and beyond. "We've been given a second chance," Tom said, "to use these gifts properly, to become what we were meant to be." He turned to Kate with a smile, and it all began because some aliens entered the silent worship and woke humanity's final weapon, she finished. But they both knew that the weapon wasn't the psychic abilities themselves. It was what the abilities enabled: connection, understanding, and the restoration of humanity's forgotten legacy among the stars. As night deepened, more awakened humans joined them on the hillside, their eyes reflecting the blue light of distant suns where human consciousness would soon reach once again, not to conquer, but to reconnect with their cosmic heritage. And, somewhere within the collective awareness that now spanned the globe, Jack's consciousness continued to guide them, his lifetime of keeping the silence finally rewarded with the universe of voices he had helped to awaken.
The alarm blared through Project Dawn's main facility, its harsh sound echoing off the steel walls. Captain James Walker ran down the corridor, his boots clicking against the polished floor. Something had gone terribly wrong with humanity's first faster-than-light drive, and it was happening just 3 days before the big test. "Talk to me, Emma. What's the status?" he shouted as he burst into the control room. Dr. Emma Reed stood hunched over a computer screen, her face lit by its blue glow. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept in days. "It's bad, James. The quantum core is breaking down at the molecular level. It's like it's eating itself." She pushed her glasses up and rubbed her tired eyes. "This shouldn't be possible. We triple-checked everything." Walker leaned over her shoulder, studying the readings. The FTL drive they'd spent 10 years building was literally falling apart. Tiny holes were appearing in the quantum core's structure, spreading like cancer. All their hopes of reaching the stars, all their dreams of expansion beyond Earth's solar system, were crumbling before their eyes. "Get everyone out of the testing chamber," Walker ordered, hitting the facility-wide comm button. "Full evacuation. Now." Through the observation window, Walker watched as scientists and engineers rushed out of the massive chamber that housed the FTL drive. The machine itself was beautiful, a 30-foot-tall cylinder of gleaming metal and pulsing light, representing the peak of human achievement, or at least it had been until 10 minutes ago. "James," Emma called out suddenly. "Look at this." She pointed to her screen, where she'd magnified the image of the deteriorating quantum core. "These patterns, they're not random." Walker squinted at the display. The holes appearing in the core material indeed formed a distinct pattern, almost like. "It looks manufactured," he said slowly, the realization hitting him. "This isn't a malfunction. This is sabotage." Emma's fingers flew across the keyboard, running more detailed scans. "These are nanobots," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of horror and fascination. "Incredibly advanced ones. They're programmed to break down specific atomic bonds in our quantum core." Walker's fist slammed against the desk. Who could have done this? China? Russia? The European Union? Emma shook her head, pulling up more data. James, look at the construction of these nanobots. The materials, the programming. This isn't human technology. We're at least 50 years away from something this sophisticated. The implications hit Walker like a physical blow. If Emma was right, and she usually was, then they weren't dealing with human saboteurs. The thought was both terrifying and oddly thrilling. Are you saying? We're not alone, Emma finished, and whoever's out there doesn't want us joining them in the stars. Over the next 48 hours, Project Dawn turned into a hive of activity. The FTL drive was quarantined, but it was too late to save it. The nanobots had reduced the quantum core to useless dust. Teams of scientists worked around the clock, studying every piece of data they could salvage. Walker stood in his office, staring out the window at the New Mexico desert. The evening sun painted the sand orange, but he barely noticed the beauty. His mind was racing with possibilities and implications. He'd joined the military space program to help humanity reach the stars. Never had he imagined he'd be dealing with actual aliens, hostile ones at that. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Emma walked in, carrying a tablet and looking even more exhausted than before. "You need to see this," she said, placing the tablet on his desk. "We've been going through old data, looking for anything unusual. Look at these energy readings from 6 months ago." Walker studied the graphs she showed him. "These spikes, they're not from our systems. No, they match the energy signature of the nanobots. Whatever did this has been watching us for months, maybe longer. They waited until we were almost ready to test the drive before they struck." Walker's jaw clenched. "They wanted us to know. They could have sabotaged us early in development, but they waited until we'd invested everything. They wanted to send a message." "There's more," Emma said, swiping to a new screen. "We found this embedded in the nanobot's code structure. It's not exactly writing, but, well, look." The screen showed a complex pattern that repeated over and over. After a moment, Walker realized it was a star map. One point was clearly marked, different from the others. "We think it's their location," Emma explained, "or at least one of their bases. It's like they signed their work. They're so advanced, they don't even care if we know who did it. Or they're arrogant," Walker said, his mind already working on possibilities. "They think we're so far behind them technologically that it doesn't matter if we know." Emma nodded slowly. "The level of technology in just these nanobots, it's incredible. The way they work, the materials they're made from, it's like science fiction. We could learn so much just from studying the remains." Walker straightened up, a plan forming in his mind. "Get me everything you can on these nanobots. Every scrap of data, every theory, everything. And Emma, keep this quiet. If there really are aliens out there trying to keep us down, we need to be smart about this. What are you thinking?" Emma asked, recognizing the look in his eyes. "I'm thinking it's time humanity showed these aliens they picked the wrong species to mess with. They left us their signature. Fine. Maybe it's time we paid them a visit." Over the next few days, as the public was told that Project Dawn had suffered a major technical setback, Walker and Emma worked secretly with a small team. They studied every piece of alien technology they could salvage from the ruins of their FTL drive. The nanobots had mostly destroyed themselves after completing their mission, but they hadn't counted on human determination and ingenuity. In his private moments, Walker couldn't help but smile at the aliens' mistake. They thought they were sending humanity a message, showing them their place in the cosmic hierarchy. Instead, they'd given humanity its first pieces of advanced alien technology to study. More importantly, they'd given humanity something it had never had before: proof that faster-than-light travel was possible, and a target to aim for. In a secure underground room, Walker met with the United Earth Defense Council. The faces around the table were grim as he laid out what they'd discovered. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, standing at the head of the table, "we've been attacked. Not by any nation on Earth, but by an alien civilization that wants to keep us grounded. They think they've won. They think they've sent us back to square one. He paused, looking each council member in the eye. I say we show them how humans respond to bullies. The council chamber erupted in discussion, but Walker could see the fire in their eyes. Humanity had just been pushed down, but like always, they would get back up. And this time, they'd come back stronger. As he left the council chamber with approval for his new mission, Walker looked up at the stars through a window. Somewhere up there, an advanced alien civilization was probably congratulating itself on keeping humanity in its place. They had no idea what was coming. Emma met him in the corridor. The council approved it. Walker nodded. Project Phoenix is a go. Start putting together your team. We're going to need the best minds on Earth for this. And if we run into these aliens? She asked. Walker's smile was grim. Then we'll thank them for the technology they so kindly left us, right before we show them how humans improve on everything we touch. The stars twinkled above them, holding both threat and promise. Humanity's first faster-than-light drive was destroyed, but from its ashes, something new would rise. The aliens who had tried to stop human progress had instead guaranteed it. They just didn't know it yet. The underground facility buzzed with activity as Walker studied the holographic display, showing their latest stealth technology test results. 3 months had passed since the alien sabotage, and Project Phoenix was moving faster than anyone had expected. Humans, as it turned out, worked best when they were angry. The test results are promising, Dr. Marcus Stone said, pointing to the energy readings. The quantum physicist had joined the team 2 months ago, and his brilliant mind had already proved invaluable. We've managed to replicate the cloaking effect we found in the alien nanobot's outer shell. How long until we can scale it up? Walker asked, his eyes fixed on the data streams. That's the interesting part. Marcus grinned, pulling up another display. Dr. Wells thinks she's found a way to improve it. Dr. Anna Wells stepped forward from her workstation. The AI specialist had dark circles under her eyes, but they sparkled with excitement. The alien stealth technology is good, but it's wasteful. They're using complex systems where simple ones would work better. It's like they never stopped to question their original designs. Walker raised an eyebrow. It wasn't the first time they'd found inefficiencies in the alien tech. Show me. Anna's fingers danced across the holographic controls. Look here. Their cloaking system uses quantum fields to bend light and other forms of radiation, but they're generating these fields using massive amounts of energy. We found a way to achieve the same effect with just 30% of the power. Emma walked in just as Anna was explaining, carrying a tablet filled with her latest findings. It's not just the cloaking system, she added. Everything we've reverse-engineered from their tech shows the same pattern. They're technically advanced, but rigid. No creativity. Walker smiled. It was exactly what they needed. A weakness they could exploit. The aliens might have better technology, but humans had something they didn't. The ability to think outside the box. How soon can we have a working prototype? He asked. 2 weeks for the small-scale version, Anna replied. A month for something big enough to hide a ship. Walker nodded. Make it 3 weeks. The Meridian Collective isn't going to wait forever to check on their handiwork. They had learned the alien's name from fragments of code in the nanobots. The Meridian Collective, an advanced civilization that saw themselves as the guardians of proper technological development in the galaxy. In their eyes, humanity was moving too fast, too recklessly. In the facility's break room later that day, Walker found Marcus staring into his coffee cup. Something on your mind? Just thinking about what we're about to do, Marcus replied. We're going to steal from one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. One wrong move. One wrong move and Earth stays grounded forever, Walker finished. But the right moves. We show them that humanity deserves its place among the stars. Marcus smiled slightly. You make it sound simple. It is simple. They think we're primitive. That makes us dangerous. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. The underground facility, hidden beneath an abandoned mining operation in Nevada, became a hive of innovation. Every piece of alien technology they'd salvaged from the nanobots was studied, taken apart, and improved upon. Emma and her engineering team worked on replicating the alien materials. Anna's AI systems learned to crack alien encryption codes. Marcus solved quantum equations that would have won him a Nobel Prize if they weren't completely classified. Walker watched it all with pride. This was humanity at its finest, backed into a corner but fighting back with everything they had. Final test running, Anna announced one evening, as they prepared to demonstrate their completed stealth system. The prototype ship, really just a small shuttle, sat in the center of the testing chamber. Energy readings flared on the monitors as the system activated. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the shuttle began to fade from view, not just invisible, but completely undetectable to any form of scanning they could throw at it. "It works," Emma whispered, checking and rechecking the readings. "It actually works better than their version." Walker touched the invisible hull of the shuttle. They couldn't see it, but it was solid under his hand. "How many can we build?" "With current resources, 3 ships this size," Emma replied. "But Walker, we found something else while working on this." She led him to her lab, where a complex diagram filled one of the screens. "We've been studying their quantum communication systems, the ones they use to control the nanobots. They don't just send data. They're part of a massive network, like an interstellar internet." Walker's eyes widened as he understood. "You can tap into their communications." "Better." Emma's smile was fierce. "We can find their facilities, their shipping routes, their research stations, everything." The implications were staggering. They wouldn't have to blindly search for alien technology to steal. They could pick their targets. That night, Walker called a meeting with the core team. Emma, Marcus, and Anna sat around the conference table, along with key members of their support staff. 3 weeks from now, Walker began, "We launch Operation Payback. 3 ships, 3 targets. We've identified a research station in the Kuiper Belt where they've been watching us from. That's our primary target." He brought up a holographic map showing the station's location. "They think they're hidden, but thanks to Dr. Reed's work with their quantum network, we can see them clear as day. We go in, we take what we need, and we get out." "What if we run into their security?" Marcus asked. "Then we show them what happens when you back humans into a corner," Anna replied, a glint in her eye. "Our improved versions of their tech should give them a nasty surprise." The room filled with determined nods. Everyone there had lost years of work when the aliens destroyed Project Dawn. This was their chance to take it all back, and then some. 3 teams, Walker continued. "I'll lead Alpha Team to the research station. Dr. Reed, you'll take Beta Team to their communication relay. Dr. Wells, you've got Gamma Team hitting their supply depot. Dr. Stone will coordinate from here and monitor their quantum network for any signs we've been detected." Emma raised her hand. "What exactly are we looking for once we're inside?" "Everything," Walker replied. "Their FTL technology, weapons, shields, anything we can use. But most importantly, we need their quantum crystalline processors. Without those, we can't build our own advanced systems." The room grew quiet as the magnitude of what they were about to attempt sank in. They were about to steal from beings who could cross the galaxy in the blink of an eye. "One more thing," Walker added, his voice grave. "If any team is detected, you abort immediately. We can't risk them tracing us back to Earth. We get one shot at this. Let's make it count." As the meeting broke up, Walker stayed behind, looking at the holographic display of their targets. Somewhere up there, the Meridian Collective thought they had won. They thought they had put humanity back in its place. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The stolen alien stealth technology worked perfectly. Walker's ship hung invisible in space near the Meridian Research Station, which looked like a giant silver snowflake spinning slowly against the stars. Through the viewport, he could see the station's crystalline arms stretching out for miles, each one filled with laboratories and research facilities. Beta team in position. Emma's voice came through the quantum comm. Her ship was stationed near the communication relay, waiting for their signal. Gamma team ready, Anna reported from the supply depot location. Walker checked his tactical display. They had spent weeks planning this mission, studying the station's patterns. Now it was time to see if their improvements on the alien tech really worked. Remember, Marcus's voice came from mission control back on Earth. You have a 20-minute window before their security scan cycles. Don't get greedy. Walker nodded to his team. They were all wearing reverse-engineered versions of Meridian environmental suits, modified to work better with human biology. Alpha team moving in. Start the clock. Their ship glided silently toward the station. The improved stealth system worked even better in space than it had during testing. They approached an airlock on one of the outer arms, where their scans had shown minimal activity. They're not even using basic motion sensors, one of Walker's team members whispered in awe. They really don't expect anyone to be able to reach them out here. Their arrogance is our advantage, Walker replied, watching as their computer system interfaced with the airlock. The alien code they'd stolen from the nanobots did its work, and the door slid open silently. Inside, the station was beautiful. The corridors were made of some kind of transparent crystal that seemed to glow from within. Their footsteps made no sound on the polished floor. Beta team breaching now, Emma reported over the comm. Gamma team entering through maintenance shaft, Anna added. Walker led his team through the crystalline corridors, following the map they'd pieced together from stolen data. The few Meridian aliens they saw were tall, silvery beings who walked with an air of casual superiority. None of them gave the human team a second glance, their stolen suits making them look like just another group of researchers. Primary lab ahead, Walker's second-in-command reported, checking a scanner they'd modified to detect quantum energy signatures, strong power readings. The lab doors opened automatically for them, their stolen access codes working perfectly. Inside, Walker had to stop himself from gasping. The room was enormous, filled with technology that made their most advanced equipment look like children's toys. Spread out. Get everything you can, he ordered. Priority on the quantum processors and FTL data cores. His team moved quickly, using specially designed devices to copy alien data and collect small but crucial components. Everything was going smoothly, too smoothly. Walker, Marcus's voice came through suddenly, tense with worry. We're picking up some strange readings from the quantum network. I think they're... The message cut off in a burst of static. At the same moment, alarms began blaring throughout the station. This is not a normal security scan, one of Walker's team reported, checking their instruments. They know we're here. All teams, abort mission, Walker ordered, but Emma's voice cut in. Negative. We need 2 more minutes to get the core data from the relay. Without it, everything else is useless. Walker cursed under his breath. Beta and Gamma, get what you can and get out. Alpha team, we're going to make some noise. He turned to his team. New plan. We're going to give them something obvious to chase. He pointed to the far end of the lab. Plant charges there. Non-lethal, just flashy. Then head to emergency exit point 2. I'll meet you there. As his team moved to follow orders, Walker ran to the central console. They needed something to show for this mission, something worth the risk. His fingers flew over the alien controls, using every code-breaking trick Anna had developed. The alarms grew louder. Through the crystal walls, he could see Meridian security forces gathering. They moved with the same arrogant precision as everything else they did. No urgency, no adaptation, just following standard procedures. Beta team clear, Emma reported. We got the core data. Gamma team retreating with acquired resources, Anna added. Walker smiled as his console finally gave him what he wanted: access to the station's main research database. He plugged in a quantum storage device and started downloading everything. The charges his team planted went off, filling the far end of the lab with blinding light and harmless but impressive-looking energy discharges. As he'd hoped, the Meridian security forces immediately moved to investigate, following their protocols perfectly. "Alpha Team, what's your status?" Marcus's voice had returned, heavy with concern. "Getting what we came for," Walker replied, watching the download progress. "Have you seen their response? They're not even trying to lock down the whole station. They're just following their security playbook step by step." "Don't get cocky," Marcus warned. "Their tech is still way ahead of ours." "Maybe," Walker agreed, grabbing the storage device as the download completed. "But they don't know how to improvise." He ran for the emergency exit, hearing the confused communications of Meridian security behind him. They were still focusing on the distraction, still following their procedures, while he took a route their protocols didn't cover. The trip back to the ship was tense but manageable. The Meridians had never considered that someone might use their own stealth technology against them, and they hadn't updated their security systems to detect it. "All teams report," Walker called as his ship detached from the station. "Beta team clear, heading home," Emma replied. "We got their communication protocols and quantum network specifications." "Gamma team away," Anna reported. "Secured samples of their advanced materials and power systems." Walker looked at the storage device in his hand. "Alpha team heading out. We got their research database, and—" he checked another device attached to his suit, samples of their quantum processors. As their ships moved away from the station, they could see the Meridian security vessels beginning to respond. But the aliens were still following standard search patterns, still behaving exactly as their protocols dictated. "They're not even considering that we might have improved their stealth tech," Emma observed, a note of satisfaction in her voice. "Their weakness is their strength," Walker replied, watching the alien ships search futilely. "They're so advanced, they've forgotten how to think creatively. Everything is processes and protocols for them." The journey back to Earth was tense but uneventful. Their stolen and improved stealth technology kept them hidden from the Meridian ships that were now actively searching the system. In the debriefing room back on Earth, Walker looked at the assembled team. Despite their success, he knew the hard part was just beginning. "We got what we needed," he announced, "but now comes the real challenge. We have to understand it, improve it, and prepare to use it. Because once we do, once we start building our own advanced chips and technology, the Meridians will notice." Emma held up the data core from the relay station. "They'll notice, but by then it'll be too late. They think they know everything about how their technology can be used. Wait until they see what humans can do with it." Walker nodded, looking at each member of the team. They were tired but proud, and more importantly, they were ready for the next phase. "The Meridians think they're superior because they have better technology," he said. "Let's show them what happens when you give humanity some new tools to play with." The stolen quantum processor sat on Emma's workbench, its crystalline structure catching the light. 2 months had passed since the heist, and Project Phoenix's underground facility had transformed into something that looked like a cross between a human lab and an alien research center. "Watch this," Emma said to Walker, who had just walked in for the daily progress report. She pressed a button on her console, sending a surge of power through the alien device. The processor lit up with an inner glow, but instead of the steady blue light they'd seen in the Meridian station, it pulsed with rainbow colors. "Is it supposed to do that?" Walker asked, concerned. Emma grinned. "That's the beautiful part. We're not just using it. We're pushing it past what the Meridians thought possible. They designed these processors to be stable and predictable. We're teaching them to dance." Across the room, Anna was working with a team of programmers, their screens filled with a mixture of human and alien code. "The Meridian's AI systems are incredibly advanced," she called out, "but they're also incredibly wasteful. They use quantum processing for everything, even simple tasks that a regular computer could handle better. Walker walked over to her station. Can we do better? We already are. Anna pulled up a comparison chart. By combining our traditional computing systems with their quantum processors, we're getting performance that's 5 times better than their pure quantum systems. They never even thought to try it. Probably seemed too primitive to them. The excitement in the facility was contagious. Every day brought new breakthroughs as human creativity crashed into alien precision. Marcus had set up a testing chamber where they were experimenting with the Meridian's power systems, finding ways to make them more efficient by breaking all the rules the aliens had built into them. They're like master craftsmen who never question their training, Marcus explained to Walker as they watched a test of their hybrid power core. They do everything perfectly, but they're stuck in their ways. We're like kids who don't know what's impossible, so we try anyway. And sometimes it works. The stolen database was proving to be a goldmine of information, but not in the way they'd expected. The Meridian's technical documentation was thorough but rigid, filled with warnings about exactly what not to do with their technology. Human engineers took these warnings as challenges, deliberately pushing systems beyond their supposed limits. "Look at this," Emma said one evening, calling Walker to her lab. She had connected one of their improved quantum processors to a holographic display. The image it projected wasn't the clean, precise hologram the Meridians used, but something more vibrant and dynamic. Their holograms can only show what's in their approved pattern libraries, she explained. We modified the system to generate images on the fly. It uses more power, but it can show anything we can imagine. Walker watched the swirling colors with satisfaction. How long until we can start building ships? That's the thing, Emma replied, pulling up another display. We don't need to build their ships. We can build something better. She showed him the designs they'd been working on. The ships looked nothing like the elegant but sterile Meridian vessels. These were hybrids, combining the best of human and alien technology in ways the Meridians had never considered. We're calling it the Phoenix class, she said proudly. Faster than their ships, more maneuverable, and armed with weapons they won't expect. Because they're impossible, Walker asked with a smile. Because they're simple, Anna cut in, joining them. The Meridians use complex quantum weapons that can tear apart atomic bonds. We're building guns that shoot good old-fashioned projectiles, just accelerated to near-light speed using their own power systems. The work continued day and night. The Meridian database had included their faster-than-light drive specifications, but humanity wasn't content to just copy them. The human engineers found ways to streamline the system, removing redundancies that the safety-obsessed Meridians had built in. They're so afraid of their systems failing that they build in backups for their backups, Marcus explained during a test of their prototype drive. But all those backup systems slow everything down. We're stripping out the extras and adding human-style emergency protocols instead. Is it safe? Walker asked, watching the drive power up. Safe enough, Marcus replied with a grin. And twice as fast as their version. The breakthrough they'd all been waiting for came 3 months after the heist. Emma called an emergency meeting in the main lab, her face glowing with excitement. We've cracked it, she announced to the assembled team. We know why they sabotaged us, why they were so afraid of our original FTL project. She pulled up a comparison between humanity's original drive design and the Meridian version. Look at this, our original design, the one they destroyed. It was better than theirs, more primitive in some ways, yes, but also more innovative. If they'd let us finish it, we would have embarrassed them. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Meridians hadn't attacked out of fear that humanity was developing too quickly. They'd attacked because humanity was developing in the wrong direction, finding solutions that made their carefully maintained technological superiority look foolish. So what now? Walker asked, looking at the prototype ship taking shape in the assembly bay. Now, Emma's smile was fierce. Now we take everything they gave us, everything we stole from them, And we make it work our way. We build ships that their sensors can't predict because we're not following their rules. We make weapons they can't defend against because we're not using their playbook. The next few weeks were a blur of activity as they prepared their first full-size ship for testing. It looked dangerous, a combination of smooth meridian crystal and aggressive human engineering. The quantum processors had been pushed to their limits, then reconfigured to work in ways the Meridians had never imagined. Ready for power-up sequence, Anna announced from her station. The ship's bridge was a hybrid too, combining holographic displays with physical controls that humans could feel and manipulate. Walker sat in the captain's chair, watching as systems came online. The ship hummed with power, but not the steady, predictable hum of a Meridian vessel. This was something new, something that shouldn't have worked according to their database, but did anyway. All systems operational, Emma reported. The hybrid drive is stable. Hull integrity at 100%. Weapons are hot. Walker looked at the weapons display with satisfaction. The Meridians would be expecting quantum disruption beams and energy weapons. They wouldn't be looking for railguns powered by their own quantum cores, or missiles guided by hybrid AI systems that could think in ways their rigid programs couldn't predict. Begin final system check, he ordered. The Meridians will notice us eventually, and when they do, Emma finished, they'll learn that giving humans access to advanced technology doesn't make us more like them. It just lets us be ourselves more efficiently. The ship's engines pulsed with power, not the clean, precise power of a Meridian drive, but something wilder and stronger. Humanity was ready to return to the stars. And this time, they weren't following anyone else's rules. The alert came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Marcus burst into the command center, his face pale with excitement. They're here. A Meridian fleet just appeared at the edge of our solar system. Walker was already moving, sending the signal that would activate their defense plans. Throughout the underground base, lights flashed as crews ran to their stations. 6 months of preparation were about to be tested. How many ships? He asked, studying the long-range sensor data. 15 vessels, Emma reported from her station. Standard Meridian patrol formation. They're not even trying to hide. They want us to see them coming. Walker smiled grimly. Of course they do. This is another message. Time to send one back. He activated the facility-wide comm. All crews to ships. This is not a drill. Repeat. All crews to ships. Their secret shipyards, hidden in abandoned mines and underwater facilities around the world, had produced 8 vessels of the new Phoenix class. Not as many as Walker would have liked, but they would have to be enough. The Meridians are broadcasting, Anna announced from the communication station. They're using standard frequencies. They want to make sure we can hear them. Put it through, Walker ordered. A hologram appeared in the center of the command room. The Meridian commander was tall and silvery, its movements precise and elegant. When it spoke, its voice was translated by their stolen and improved translation systems. Humans of Earth, the alien said, your recent theft of Meridian technology has been noted. Your primitive attempts to replicate our achievements are admirable but misguided. Surrender the stolen technology, and we will be merciful. Walker stepped forward. This is Captain James Walker of Earth. We appreciate your concern, but we'll be keeping what we took. In fact, we'd like to thank you for the inspiration. The Meridian commander's expression didn't change. Their faces weren't made for showing emotion, but its voice became colder. You were warned once. Your species is not ready for advancement. We will now remove your capacity for spaceflight entirely. The transmission cut off. Walker turned to his crew. Battle stations. Let's show them what humanity has done with their superior technology. The first Phoenix-class ship rose from its hidden base in the Nevada desert, its hybrid hull gleaming in the sunlight. Others emerged from their concealed locations around the globe. From the Australian outback, the Sahara Desert, the Brazilian rainforest, and the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Meridian fleet is advancing, Emma reported. They're using standard attack formation Delta, exactly like in their tactical database. Walker took his place in the command chair of the lead ship. They're fighting by the book. Let's throw away the book. All ships, execute Operation Wildcard. The Phoenix ships moved in patterns that would have horrified any Meridian commander. They broke formation, each ship acting independently, using maneuvers that the aliens' tactical computers would consider illogical or impossible. The Meridian fleet opened fire first, their quantum disruption beams lancing out across space, but the hybrid hulls of the Phoenix ships, combining Meridian crystals with human alloys in ways the aliens had never considered, absorbed or deflected the attacks. Their shields are configured to stop quantum weapons, Anna reported with satisfaction. They're not ready for what we built. All ships, weapons-free. The first salvo caught the Meridians completely by surprise. Instead of the energy weapons they were expecting, the Phoenix ships launched salvos of physically crafted projectiles, accelerated to near-light speed by stolen and modified Meridian power cores. The alien shields, designed to stop energy attacks, were less effective against old-fashioned kinetic impacts. Direct hits on 3 enemy vessels, Marcus reported. Their shields are holding, but they're adapting their formations. They're falling back to defensive pattern Omega. Walker nodded, just like we thought they would. Spring the trap. 2 more Phoenix ships suddenly appeared behind the Meridian fleet, their improved stealth systems dropping away. The aliens had never considered that their cloaking technology could be modified to work at battle speeds. It violated too many of their safety protocols. The battle that followed was unlike anything either species had expected. The Meridian ships were more advanced in every way, but they fought like machines, following preset patterns and protocols. The human ships fought like humans, improvising, taking risks, using their hybrid technology in ways that the aliens' tactical computers couldn't predict. Their flagship is dropping power, Emma called out. The quantum shock from their own deflected weapons is overloading their systems. Walker watched as the Meridian fleet's perfect formation began to break apart. Their ships were designed to fight as a coordinated unit, each one playing its precise role. But the humans weren't fighting as a unit. They were fighting as individuals, each captain making their own decisions, creating chaos that the Meridians couldn't adapt to. They're transmitting again, Anna reported. The Meridian commander appeared once more, but its perfect posture was gone. This is impossible, it said. You cannot be using our technology this way. It violates all established protocols. That's humanity's specialty, Walker replied. We don't care about your protocols. We care about what works. Stand down your fleet, or we'll show you a few more impossible things. There was a long pause. Walker could almost see the alien commander struggling with concepts it had never been trained for. Finally, it spoke again. Your species, you have taken our most advanced technology and changed it, made it work in ways that should not be possible. There was something new in its voice, not quite respect, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. We must reconsider our assessment of humanity. Walker leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. Your fleet will withdraw. You'll recognize Earth as an independent technological power. And in return, we'll share with you some of the improvements we've made to your technology. Improvements. The commander sounded genuinely confused. But our technology is already perfect. Perfect, but not optimal. Walker corrected. You built everything to be safe and predictable. We've found ways to make it better. Faster, more efficient. We can show you, if you're willing to learn. The Meridian ships began to power down their weapons. On the tactical display, Walker could see them reverting to their standard non-combat formation. But there was something different about it, something less rigid than before. The collective will need to discuss this, the commander said. Your species has demonstrated capabilities we did not think possible. This changes many calculations. That's what humans do, Walker replied. We change things. Sometimes we break them, but usually we make them better. As the Meridian fleet began its withdrawal, Walker looked around at his crew. Emma was already analyzing the battle data, finding ways to improve their systems even further. Anna was working on new tactical programs that combined human unpredictability with alien precision. Marcus was excitedly explaining to anyone who would listen how they could use what they'd learned to make their ships even more efficient. "Captain," Emma called out, looking up from her station. "The Meridians left us a message on their quantum network. It's an invitation. They want to establish formal diplomatic relations." Walker smiled. "Send them our response. Tell them we look forward to showing them how much more their technology can do when you stop following all the rules." The Phoenix ships turned back toward Earth, their hybrid drives pulsing with power that was neither purely human nor purely alien, but something new and better than both. They had done more than defend their planet. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in copying advanced technology, but in finding new ways to use it. Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, more full of promise than threat. Humanity was ready to take its place among them, not as students or followers, but as innovators who could take the impossible and make it work anyway.